Hey everybody, so today's topic is relative strength and absolute strength, and something that kind of pisses me off a little bit, and again, I probably seem like an angry guy because I'm pissed off at stuff all the time, um, but something that kind of pisses me off a little bit is people who don't really understand the difference between relative and absolute strength, and in particular, Frank Medrano is kind of an example of this, and this isn't. I don't have anything against Frank. This isn't me talking crap about him. I think he's. There's nothing wrong with him, but there is something wrong with the way people perceive him, and that's a problem, I would say. So Frank is a vegan, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I personally wouldn't ever be a vegan. If you're going to be a vegan for the health benefits, understand that there may not really be any health benefits other than the ones you get from potentially being a vegetarian. And you can be perfectly healthy eating meat, so long as you do it right. If you want to do it because you care about animals, that's a personal decision. I do not have that issue. I don't really plan on apologizing for being, the dominant species on the planet. That's kind of the way, competition and evolution works. I do think that, there should be a certain level of responsibility and sustainability that's added into the equation, but I don't think that caring about animals for their own sake makes much sense. Anyway, so he's a vegan, and, if you search, Frank Medrano vegan, you pop up these videos where people are kind of like, whoa, look at Frank Medrano, he's so fucking strong, and he's a vegan, shouldn't that mess with your ideas about things? And that is the kind of thing that I take issue with, is people holding up Frank as this, oh, well, he's a strong guy who's a vegan, so, what about that? That betrays, first of all, two things. One is a lack of an understanding about diet and its importance in athletics, and the other is relative strength and absolute strength. So the first one is diet and its importance in athletics. Diet is more important in certain sports than in others. For example, bodybuilding, it's probably the most important. Bodybuilding, you need a lot of protein in order to maintain, a lot of muscle mass, in order to cut as much fat as possible. You have to focus on your diet a lot in order to cut as much fat as possible while maintaining as much muscle. That's important. Yeah, diet matters a lot for that. And yes, you do need protein, to get optimal results for that. I did see a video where there's an older guy, a vegan, 80-year-old bodybuilder, who's saying well, I don't need protein. Who says I need protein? You need less protein as you get older, because after a certain point you've kind of reached the point where you've built all the muscle that you can. So you need less because you're just maintaining. You're not really building muscle at that point. So the people who need to focus on the diet the most are young bodybuilders, followed by young athletes in other in other sports. But the interesting thing is that where diet is least important is a sport where you, first of all, you don't need to be very big. If you don't need to be very big, you don't need as much protein because you don't need to maintain as much muscle mass. And if you're not going to be a bodybuilder, if you're not, a sport that focuses a lot on hypertrophy, you have to understand that strength mainly comes from, basically adaptations to, the way your brain communicates with your muscles, the way your metabolism, provides energy for exercise. So, diet is less important for that stuff because it doesn't really matter what you're getting in so long as you have some energy in order to, to work out. So diet is kind of the big red herring in that since everyone cares about weight loss and diet is really important for that, they seem to think that it's, massively important for everything else as well. It's really not. If you're not trying to gain or lose weight and you're not trying to build a lot of muscle, diet is not actually that important in terms of performance. Now, aside from that, so Frank is a little guy, so Frank is a perfect example of someone for whom diet is less, like less important. Like, not minimally important, but as unimportant as you can get while still being, an athlete in some kind of field. The second thing is relative versus absolute strength. Oh yeah, like Frank is not that strong of a guy. Yes, he's strong relative to other people his body weight. He's been working out longer. He's in a lot better shape. But if you put Frank up against like a 300-pound strongman, it'd be pretty clear which person is stronger, by a lot. And the thing is that there are two forms of strength. There are relative and absolute strength. Absolute strength is just how much weight it's how much weight you can lift. So say Frank has, I don't know, a 400-pound deadlift, and a guy who weighs twice as much as him has a 700-pound deadlift. Obviously, 700 pounds is a lot more than 400 pounds. That's a lot stronger. But if you think about that, you realize, well, wait a second. If the guy weighs twice as much as Frank does, why can't he lift 800 pounds instead of 700? And the reason for that is that, like I said before, since like a lot of it isn't about muscle, it's about neural connection, it's about metabolic adaptation. Like there's less and less of an effect of adding weight to adding strength as you go on. So essentially, like there's like kind of like a plateau, like a parabolic upside down curve where it sort of plateaus. You're approaching a limit and it sort of plateaus as you get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So what happens is the biggest guys in the world are strong, absolutely, but smaller guys are stronger relatively, which means that the lighter you get, the more strength, the more weight you could lift relative to your body weight. So, for example, Frank weighs probably about 175 pounds or something like that. Him being able to deadlift 400 pounds, that's a little over, that's, close to 3 times his body weight. That's pretty good. But if you think about, like the guy who weighs, say, like twice that, so about 350 pounds, him lifting 700 pounds, well, that's only twice his body weight, right? So that's lower. And that's what the thing is, that's what relative strength is. Lighter guys are stronger, like basically they're stronger relative to their body weight, but they're weaker overall. And so that's why he can do all these calisthenics stuff, is because he's so lean. Not because he's like the strongest, guy in the world, but because he's really strong relative to, to how much he weighs. And since your body weight is the resistance in, like calisthenics exercises like that, like being lighter is an advantage. So in Frank's case, actually, like not getting a lot of protein, not having a huge amount of muscle mass, like not having a ton of calories coming in, that's actually better for him. So the thing is that, like people hold him up as like, oh, like he's the superhuman, he's a superhumanly strong guy. No, he's really not. He's strong relative to, people who don't work out at all. He's strong relative to people who maybe, just worked out a little bit and, don't really have any goals and don't really know where they're going. But he's not like the strongest dude in the world. And that betrays kind of a fundamental misunderstanding about how diet is important to exercise, how diet is important to building strength. And, yeah, like that's, he's not proof of anything. He's a person. He does things, like that's it. Like, he's not like a propaganda tool, or at least he shouldn't be, because, if you had like a guy who was like a 400-pound strongman and he was like the strongest dude in the world and he was a vegan, that would be interesting. That would be game-breaking. That would be the kind of thing that would say, okay, we really need to reconsider our science and we need to go back and figure out how the hell this happened, because this doesn't make any sense. But Frank Medrano is not that. He is not evidence of some kind of ridiculous, like conspiracy to get us to eat more protein. That's not what he is. So, yeah, that's really about all I have for today. Like the videos, count on the videos, rate the videos, tell me I'm an idiot, the usual. Have a good night.